Great. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here on the Excella track. My name is Allison. I'm from Gameanalytics. I have had 12 years in the gaming industry, always at the intersection of data and gaming. I live in beautiful Copenhagen. As you can see here, I am American, so I'm a little jet lagged. I made the flight a couple days ago and just a little bleary-eyed, so I appreciate you guys putting up with me during this time. My experience has been both hands-on with games like you've seen here, but also tech providers, and I'm currently the COO at Gameanalytics. So today we're talking about data and games, my favorite topic. I want to start out just by talking about the importance of game at different stages, the importance of data at different stages of your game. It's important both in pre-launch and post-launch. The pre-launch is all about showing traction for your funding, if you need that, or for your publishing. You use data to prove marketability, to show that your game will have an audience, to ensure that your gameplay is happening as intended, and then to really start to hone in on those strategies that you have around pricing and monetization. And post-launch, it then becomes about broadening your perspective on your users, and understanding where to allocate resources. So this is deciding which features to launch, building that core understanding of your core players and payers, running live operations and making real-time adjustments to your game, and then addressing community feedback as well. So putting a little bit of context to the loud feedback that you're likely getting from your user base. I do want to note that the KPIs that you use, the metrics that you use, a lot of the data that you need to track really is the same in both of these stages. It's the same as well based on the different platforms that you're developing games for and different monetization models. So I'll go into some specifics about KPIs here in a moment, but just to say it's pretty much the same concept across gaming as a whole. The benefits then of being data-driven or data-informed, if you will. This all comes down to first speeding up your decision-making. Data, KPIs, metrics aren't necessarily going to tell you exactly what you should do. It's not going to give you an answer, but what it is going to do is speed up your decision-making. If you know a little bit about how your players are behaving, you can make faster decisions. This seems obvious, but with Gameanalytics, we hear when people put in the SDK and suddenly have some data in front of them that it's an aha moment and they have such relief that now they can speed up their processes. The second core benefit then, as game makers, as you guys all are, is about making really great player experiences. So we all want to make a really great polished product, and that is a second benefit of being data-driven. Yeah. So now I want to just give a framework of getting from data in its most raw form into these valuable insights. So to frame it up, the very first thing you need to be doing is getting your data into a system. So sending events from your game client into some kind of storage. This is the data stage. From there, then, it's about information, structuring that data into KPIs and metrics. These two steps are the most boring, the most fundamental. I recommend using a system like Gameanalytics, but you can use others to put these things together, because what you want to be doing is moving on into the more interesting stages, which are moving into knowledge. This is then looking at the patterns and actually doing the analysis. You want to be looking at patterns, trends, anomalies at this stage. This also encompasses A/B testing. One thing I like to say about A/B testing is maybe you want to forget about it at first, actually, and focus instead on time trend analysis, your cohorts, your funnels. You really can get a lot of information about what you need to do in a broad sense if you're looking at your metrics as a whole. A/B testing really comes into play when you want to do more fine-tuning. So that is, at this stage, it's an important thing that I think a lot of people get a bit distracted with, especially early on in their cycle. From there, at the very top of the pyramid, when we're all very self-actualized at this point, it's all about action. So being able to close that loop, making data-informed decisions, and taking some action within your game. Again, this can be simply allocating resources to different features. The other piece of it that is maybe more exciting is around segmentation. So segmenting your users into groups and then taking some action on them within your game. This is a quote by Nate Silver. He's in the political realm here in the United States, if you know him, but he's a data guy. And I really like this quote that says that the numbers have no way of speaking for themselves. It's really about us trying to understand them, put the context behind them, and then at that action stage, taking action on those as well. So the goal today is to kind of move you up. We'll talk mostly about the knowledge stage and then also a bit about the action stage. And I'm going to do that by breaking down the core drivers of success in games, which of course are acquisition, so bringing players in, engagement, keeping users active and interested once you have them, and monetization, so turning users into revenue. I will go into each of these and define a hero metric for you, some benchmarks and some tools for each one, and then also some optimization strategies for each category as well. So I hope you can walk away today with some things that you want to take home and put into your game studios. So let's start with acquisition. This is, of course, the very beginning of your game, trying to bring users into your game, show them what unique experience that you've built. The hero metric here is new users, and I say by source in particular, because new users are great. The more users, the better, but more users doesn't actually mean that they are good users for your game or providing value. So what you need to do is break down your new users by where they're coming from. Are they organic? Are they paid? And then also beyond that, looking at the behavior of each of these groups as well. So at the launch of your game, you're likely going to have a ton of new users in, and this is an obvious and made up numbers of here, of course, in terms of benchmarks. But I bring it up just to say that at the very beginning, focusing on your new users, where they're coming from, what the source is, and then what they're doing is the most important thing to do. Later on, when you're at the maturity stage, you want to be focusing your action actually on those mature users. So diving into, these are my core payers and why they're paying you, or these are my core retainers in the game and why are they retaining in your game. Yeah. In terms of diagnosing performance beyond the new users, so for acquisition, you want to break down your advertising and your new users, again, by source, but then you want to be looking at those sources with an apples-to-apples point of view. So that, of course, is around conversion. For conversion, this is about players taking a specific action in your game once they've come in. As a game developer, you need to decide what is most important for you in terms of what that conversion point is. It could be just installing your game in the first place, or it could be getting to a level 10 or making a purchase, etc. Some optimization strategies, if this isn't working, of course, is to dive into your advertising, your targeting, your messaging. I say this also with an understanding that there's ATT, there's the privacy sandbox, all of these things happening in terms of user targeting right now. So the UA space is a hot topic, and I'm sure you guys are learning a lot out there at GDC on this. It's really an evolving space. So the next driver of success here is engagement. It's equally important once you have your players coming in to make sure that they are active and interested in your game, and the hero metric here is retention. So this is just how many players are still in your game after 1, 7, 30 days. A high retention shows that you have some content that players are happy to continue with. And there's one quote here by Mitch Lasky from the Gamecraft podcast, which I highly recommend checking out, where he says that you don't generate LTV unless you generate engagement and retention. And I say that because when you're developing games, sometimes you want to focus on monetization first. And I realize we're here on the Excel track as well, which is very focused on monetization and making money. But if you're not holding your players in your game in the first place, then how are you going to ask them to spend in your game as well? In terms of some benchmarks, Gameanalytics does track about 100,000 games every month across mobile, Roblox, PC, VR, AR. So we really have a great view into the industry KPIs and what's really driving success in some of these games. We recently took a look at these retention profiles for mobile games that were casual versus hyper-casual, and saw these two different retention profiles across both categories. Interesting thing about this is that they were remarkably the same. So what we hear in the industry is that casual games have a higher retention profile, but we don't see that in Gameanalytics' data. So this was pretty interesting to see when we pulled these benchmarks. Just to say, on our platform as well, there's a lot more benchmark information that you guys can pull for your specific genre of game. They are mobile specific. What we did see that was different is here around session length. So casual games have, if you multiply your session length by your sessions per DAU, they have a total play time of 5 minutes to 2 hours more per day. Now, I thought this was pretty incredible. It gives you an opportunity to show ads. It gives you an opportunity to inspire in-app purchases, to move those players to a web shop, to do more community activities and engagement activities as well. So it was really interesting to see that this massive amount of time that casual games get to engage with their players. In terms of improving engagement, this really is my favorite area to dive into. I'm a game analyst at heart, so what makes games tick? This is also possibly the most bespoke analysis that you're going to be doing for your game. It's really specific to the design elements that you have, but I wanted to just break down more of the KPIs that you might be looking at. You can see some of the concepts here, like level completion, in-game economy, sinks and sources, and all of the different player interactions, like are they using these guns, are they not? I have a great story from a VR studio. They are Drunken Brawl Fight, I think is the name of them. You literally go in and fight people in a bar. They put a lot of time and effort into creating things that you could pick up in the bar and fight with. So different tools, you might pick up a beer bottle or a chair, etc. What they found once they put Gameanalytics in is that the players did not use these elements at all. So they want to go in and just bare knuckle fight somebody in a bar. And when they had this insight, they completely changed their development at that point. They said, okay, we're not going to be making any more weapons. Instead, we're going to be making different environments. And I thought that was just like one of those aha moments that you have at looking at data. In terms of optimization strategies, the first thing you need to be doing is around your first-time user experience. And something that I see studios doing here is really focusing in on your tutorial as the first-time user experience. This doesn't necessarily have to be the case, like stepping through tutorial steps. As I was talking about earlier with the advertising, it could be something else that you want to be triggering in that first time that a player comes into your game. So this is, again, something bespoke and something to design around your gameplay, but something that is also very important in terms of driving retention. So moving into monetization, the hero metric here, of course, is lifetime value. This is the total amount of your revenue coming in per player in their lifetime. There's two elements to that. One is the lifetime. The other part is the revenue. So lifetime is something that, again, you need to define for your studio. So what is the payback period that you want to have in terms of players coming into your game? It could be 60 days, it could be 180 days. It's something that is tied to the risk profile that you have, both in UA spending and in general within your businesses. So that's one piece. The other piece, of course, is the revenue stream. So ensuring when you're doing your LTV calculations that you're including all of your revenue, subscription revenue, in-app purchase revenue, web shop revenue, advertising revenue. Instead of benchmarks, because benchmarks are hard for monetization, it really depends on the platform that you're building for, the methods that you're using for spending. I created an LTV calculator for you. Hope it's helpful. Happy to see people taking a picture. This is just to explain it a little bit, if you take a look, it's the player duration method, which is also the area under the curve method. This is 60-day lifetime value as well. And if you want to dig into the math behind it, I did try to simplify it within this calculator, so you're just taking a number and plugging some things in. If you want to get into the math, you can look at Russell Owens' book, which is called Gameanalytics, with a space in between. I would love to say that that's a book that we put out there into the world, but he works for, I think it was Eastside Game Studios out of Vancouver, and it's just a smart guy. The book talks about a lot of different mathematical concepts for basic game analytics, so I highly recommend that, and that's the method that I used here. There's also a tab on this that gives you more resources around lifetime value calculations. The mobile dev memo has a lot of great articles, etc. So I hope this is helpful for you. In terms of diving into monetization, we are here on the Exala track, and I put a lot of information around, again, the KPIs that you might dig into for diagnosing performance, and then some of the optimization strategies. For me, just in my experience, the frequency of in-app purchases and web shop purchases is a very important indicator of the health of your game. It's not only around how much money you're making, but how much retention you have of these players as they're coming in. The Exala blog has a ton of information around optimizing monetization within your games. Of course, they're talking about it from a web shop perspective, but it can be taken in your other channels as well. So I highly suggest checking that out. Yeah. So ending with another quote. This is the CEO of Nexon named Owen Mahoney. It's 1,000 little things. This links to the article or the podcast that I heard this in. And I thought that this was very true. When it comes to data, it is about 1,000 little things, diving into all the nooks and crannies of your player behavior. I hope today I was able to give you some breakdowns, and I appreciate you took pictures so you can really dive into these things once you're back at your dashboards. And it's about as well kind of a mindset of being open to what this data tells you. I think a main point that I want you to walk away with today is that data and insights really are your player's voice. So they're rolled up into KPIs and metrics for you, but this is what your players are telling you you should do. I hope you feel like now you're moving up the chain in terms of the pyramid here, and I would be super happy to take any questions. Thank you.